Well, it is a treat to be here in Salt Lake City. Thank you to Kelly Cole and the Utah Broadband Outreach Center for having me. I'm really excited to join you in today's important work. I am Danilo Campos. I am Technical Director for Social Impact at a little software company out of San Francisco called GitHub. I come to you this morning from the future. So let's start there. The future is already here. It's just not very evenly distributed. With these words, cyberpunk author William Gibson lends us a perfect way to discuss the digital divide. Now, I was born in 1984, but my path happened to pass an unevenly distributed chunk of the future. This bit of luck forever changed the course of my life and my career. It changed how I see the world around me, and it changed what I view as possible. Now, I confess to you, I cannot get the results of this out of my head. Everything I've seen seems entirely reproducible and scalable. Everything I've seen seems like an opportunity to multiply the prosperity of entire communities. So I want to tell you about it. Now, first, let's calibrate. I was born about as far from a Silicon Valley career as you can get while still being a US citizen. I was born to an unwed mother, all of 20 years old, without a college education, on the island of Puerto Rico. Now, Puerto Rico is America's colony. What's often skipped in US history class is how much treasure was siphoned away from the island of Puerto Rico on behalf of Wall Street interests over the course of the 20th century. The island was once home to a diverse agricultural base. But after some hurricanes devastated Puerto Rico economically, mainland bankers descended on the island and snapped up all of the land that they could. Puerto Rico had soil that was some of the most productive on earth for growing sugarcane, and that is what all of this land was set to do. Puerto Rico's legacy of plunder impacted access to education, healthcare, and economic opportunity for many Puerto Ricans, including my family. I point all of this out to you because I want you to understand. I started out underwater, but the internet threw me a line. I spent years pleading with my mom for a computer. For our family, the $2,000 price tag attached wasn't easy to swallow. But as the family business grew, my mom's resolve crumbled. At last, we had a computer at home. Now, a computer is an education unto itself. They've become a commonplace commodity tool in our everyday lives of 2016, but taking them for granted doesn't change how much they can teach you. A computer is a world of logic and magic. The rules are hard and fast, built on a non-negotiable binary reality. But the rules also allow you to multiply yourself. With a computer, you can do more kinds of work than you could do on your own, and you can do it faster. Ongoing access to a home computer showed me the potential of the digital age, how software could store, transform, and even create brand new information. The premises of the computing revolution, then poised to consume countless 20th century businesses in an enormous wave of creative destruction, were taught to me indirectly and unremarkably, just by using a computer every day. About a year into the age of our home computer, around 1995, came the next jolt of the future: dial-up internet. Still remember that weird, whiny, screeching sound as magic. Because if a single computer was magical, a global network of them was a force beyond any reckoning. Indeed, the rise of the internet sent ripple effects that continue to reverberate to this day, leaving no human industry or endeavor untouched. Few could see the long-term impact of the internet when I was a kid, but it came for all of us anyway. The first impact of the internet for me was informational. A bundle of education and reference CD-ROMs included with our computer weighed in at around 4 gigabytes of information. Now, at the time, this density of data was staggering. But even that would pale in comparison to the impact of plugging a little phone cable into the back of our computer. That cable connected us to pictures, sounds, stories, news clippings, and even more software. Suddenly, the computer was bottomless. This further expanded the education potential of our machine. Suddenly, anything seemed knowable, discoverable. I could download all new tools to further customize the abilities of our computer. Official software updates were available, fixing bugs and making things faster. The computer had gotten more useful just by picking up the phone. Even more interesting, though, than the scraps of data lying around the internet were the people who were leaving them there. The internet was a link to millions at that time. I think we were seen as strange, those of us who had friends on the internet back in those days. But it made sense. We needed people to talk to about the internet. Where better to find them? As a technologist, a huge part of my success in my career is rooted in my ability to make and maintain friendships over the internet. We do our work out there. We share stories out there. We discover opportunities out there. I would be lost without the skills I learned in childhood for building connection and community online. But beyond the joys of friendship, there were practical benefits to internet communities. In my everyday life, I knew no one who could teach me things about how the computer worked. But the internet was filled with people sharing knowledge on any subject you could imagine, especially computers. Chats, message board postings, tutorials, all of it was out there. Free classes waiting to be audited, just because so many people were so excited to share tools and information about this new world. The adults, meanwhile, were entirely mystified. And if it were up to them, I would have been too. The internet broke me free of a limited perspective. As the internet grew up, a very interesting pattern emerged. Collaboration in the form of sharing software code allowed people to jumpstart their projects by skipping over the boring and obvious parts. Once you built a button in software, why not give it away so that others could benefit from your work? You didn't lose anything in the process because software code is a non-scarce resource. You can copy it as many times as you want once it exists. So people did. Now, I learned to code accidentally at the age of 19. I discovered the massive 3D online world of Second Life. With Second Life, you could build just about anything you wanted, and it would do anything you wanted. All you had to do was use a little code. People were passing all of this code around, free to use in my own projects. Little by little, I would combine or expand it in ways that could solve my problems. After about a year of this, I was writing my own code. No one had told me growing up that there was a career to be found in my passion for computing. I'd assumed that writing software was something other people did. I didn't even think about going to school for it. But because of open source software, programming found me. The internet's common interest in sharing code provided a substantial education. I stumbled into an enormous source of creative and economic power. What's wild in retrospect was that I had no idea. I just thought I was messing around online. What I did know was that I was 19 and broke, and I knew that you could sell things in Second Life. So I did. I built battle robots, because if you're in a completely fantasy world, why not go blow other people up? I sold these toys online for my fellow fantasists to enjoy as they traveled a strange new digital frontier. Beyond teaching me plenty about business, marketing, customer service, and product design, Second Life also made me enough money to pay rent in my first life reality for a little while. Years later, Apple's App Store offered an even larger market opportunity, selling apps to millions of users around the world. It was an opportunity that the internet had prepared me to seize with both hands. The result was a technology career that is still unfolding, and which led me here to talk to you today. Let's recap then. I spent a decade of my young life enjoying the cooperative fruits of the internet. These fruits educated me on everything from design to computer science to business. My ongoing access to mentorship, new information, and example code made it possible for me to pursue a career unprecedented in my family's history. This stuff works. I wrote up here on an internet much more primitive and primordial than what we enjoy in 2016. And it still carried me this far. So, the future. Not very evenly distributed. I got a rich, early cut of the future in my youth. Most of the people I grew up with didn't. And the difference in outcomes is huge. As time wears on, the costs of our digital divide grow more stark. The basics of economic opportunity live online. Whether you're applying for jobs or schools, more and more of our personal growth requires internet literacy and access. I've traveled the country talking to people about their relationship to the internet. I've heard how people crowd the parking lots of their local hospital, enjoying its 24-hour offering of free Wi-Fi. I've heard how kids find the perfect spot on a grassy hill to get a signal from a nearby library or fast food restaurant. I've heard how people use the internet to maintain distant family connections, make progress on their schoolwork, and unwind with good TV at the end of the day. The internet has become an assumed part of a good life, but for too many, it remains stubbornly difficult to embrace. Let's imagine, then, how closing that divide could impact our future. When we connect people, new opportunities emerge. Humans have been dealing with weather since the beginning of time, but we've only had weather reports since the 1800s. The electric telegraph made it possible to move the information fast enough for the first time for it to be relevant to the people receiving it. As we expand the reach of high-speed internet to more and more everyday lives, we lay the groundwork for all new ways for people to connect. We may not even be able to conceive of them today. But there are practical benefits to investing in the internet in the here and now. Labor force participation continues to drop. In the United States, we've lost about 4% of work opportunities since the Great Recession. That's millions of jobs. Increasing access to the internet, especially in rural America, where people are twice as likely not to use it, creates meaningful jobs in infrastructure, education, and maintenance. These are great jobs to have, with plenty of long-term relevance. But that's just the first wave. With ubiquitous connectivity, more people can enjoy the benefits of telecommuting. Professionals can do their work anywhere, while raising their families and contributing to communities that feel best for them. Online education and access to global digital marketplaces means that young people may be less inclined to run off with their essential computer skills. The very workings of local government can be made more frictionless and less costly, the more it can provide services and information via the internet. There are whole new kinds of jobs we can't imagine, just waiting for us to lay enough fiber to make them possible. As virtual and augmented reality develop into serious computing platforms, whole new means of collaboration, community, creativity, and entertainment become possible. Perhaps most exciting, a global scale business can spring from any community where high-speed networking is easy to access. Remember how much information is floating out there. Remember how much free code is waiting to be tapped. The ingredients for building technology companies have never been cheaper or more accessible. For such bounties to grow, we must fertilize the ground by getting people online. The world after the digital divide is filled with opportunity, expansion, and transformation. And I think you'll be surprised by people's ingenuity. But it won't happen for free. Broadband is more than conduits, rights of way, or optical fibers. Broadband is an economic and civic imperative. It is a path to a future where we choose shared prosperity over divisiveness and fear. It is a path to a future where we understand each other, collaborate with each other, and trade with each other. We have to decide that this is a priority. We have to decide to make it possible for young people, no matter their zip code, to make their mark on a global map. We have to decide to prioritize helping parents afford the equipment and fees necessary to join the global community. We have to decide to make high-throughput connections the standard, so families will not be left behind as internet content grows richer and deeper. The communities who take this opportunity seriously stand to reap an exceptional harvest from their futures. I'm really excited to see it all unfold, and I hope you're excited with me. Thank you again, and have yourselves a great morning.